Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Links with Friends after a week hiatus. Today is September 5th, and we're doing government and security stories. And you may notice next to me that someone is kind of missing.
I'm quarantining.
This is what country folk would refer to as a snake bit episode. Because everything has gone wrong in the last 2 weeks.
It's been rough. Yeah, your air conditioner. How's your new air conditioner move? You upgraded to 4 tons?
It's great. I mean, it's ice cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's ice cold and it's quiet.
Oh, yeah, it's whisper quiet. It's amazingly quiet.
Last week, I was traveling. Wendell was traveling. And then we rescheduled the news because of that. And then Ryan's air conditioner went out and Wendell got trapped in Canada. And now
I got
Wendell's
trapped in
sick.
Canada, so I was late getting back for the news. And then it was like, okay, it's only Krista. And it's like, I know some of you want that, but no, we're not doing that.
We rescheduled Link with Friends.
Oh, yes. We don't do news here. Also, before we get started, I have an engagement challenge of a game called Which Would You Choose? For our question, you can never eat again or you can never sleep again.
Both would kill you.
Yeah.
You would die insane in one and not in the other. But you wouldn't suffer as much, maybe? No, you'd probably suffer more with no sleep.
You would probably die faster if you didn't eat, right?
We have some good research on this. Not public research, but we have empirical research about what happened in Guantanamo Bay. You do not want to go 50 days without sleep.
Yeah.
That's bad.
I think I would pick, you're basically picking which way to die. I think I would pick not eating.
I don't think that's what they meant when they wrote that in your fun little children's
In my after dinner amusement game, but yeah.
Did you choose, Wendell? Which one are you going with?
I'm probably going to go with not eating because I feel like the end would come much more swiftly.
I honestly, well, can't say that. That was a fun intro.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Here's the way you want to die in the comments below.
That's probably bad for our engagement if you do that. But hey, we got a tiny, tiny bit of good news story. This was one that we've been following for a while, and at least we know that they will put their foot down in some instances.
The FCC says, too bad, in a mocking tone to ISPs complaining that listing every fee is too hard.
Yeah, this is good.
I was worried that we couldn't hear you in the alternate screen, but I think we can.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I mean, if you want to switch back, so we can test it really quick. I can ramble for a second about the FCC. So the FCC's had a lot of losses lately. This is hopefully a win. Lena Khan's been struggling to get a win, and Lena Khan's not. Is it Lena Khan? No, my brain's not working.
Rosenworcel,
that's it. Lena Khan's FTC. Rosenworcel has had more wins than Lena Khan. Hopefully, this continues to be a win that they rack up.
So they made the obvious argument, which is not something the government always does, but they're like, hey, we can't list all these prices. And they're like, you don't have to. Just sum it up with one flat price. That's actually what we want. And
to make it easier to tell how much your service actually costs per month.
And they're like, okay, we'll do it. Not one price. They'll list them out. They did give them some concessions that before they were like, listen, if you sell this in a way where people, like, you can't show it to them for whatever reason, like a trade show or something, you have to record that. You have to tell us about it. And they're like, that's too hard. And they actually let them get away with that one. They don't have to do that anymore. So don't sign up for internet service at a festival tent or something. How many people do that?
You're surprised.
We do have a story later about a grandma who lost internet access, and it sounded like she signed up for the internet service because it was a reseller account at a tent or a festival or something. But that is weird.
404 Media, I found a lot of links.
A lot of good. I like their website design a lot.
They're a new one, I guess, or maybe they just got popular. But
defaults to dark mode.
Yeah, I like it. I like no paywall too. So this is something that we've kind of known about for a while. We know these dark programs are out there. We know that Homeland Security is really Homeland Surveillance, but now we get a little bit more detail into exactly how bad it is.
The AI surveillance tool DHS uses to detect sentiment and emotion. What if you deflect everything with humor? Does it understand that?
No.
Humor, I think, is one of them.
It's exactly as dumb as it sounds. This is terrible.
They do note all of the major emotions that it claims to be able to detect. And there's like 5 or 6. We got some nice infographics here explaining how to use it, what it does.
What if it gets really good at it and there's going to be a robot that's literally better at detecting emotions than us?
Oh, interesting. No humor. Can you read that?
No, it's too small.
Anger, disgust, fear, joy, sadness, and surprise. Humor would be joy, right?
Maybe. A joy kind of implies like you're happy. Humor can just be like, I mean, you could sometimes be happy about it, but you might just be making a joke.
I think that's one of the reasons we've flown under the radar as long as we have, is because we're so, because of the context in which we discuss the things that are the gilded cage going up around us. We just sort of point and laugh.
That's all you can do. You can either laugh or cry, and I choose to laugh.
Or you can get disappeared if you try to do something about it.
They didn't have that in my which would you choose card deck.
Are you building a gilded cage here? Oh, they're gone.
So this doesn't work on like a rigid algorithm either. You can sort of customize it. So you can put in keywords that you're looking for, and then it can start to run all of this sentiment and emotion analysis only when people are discussing those keywords. So very versatile.
Yeah. The other thing to consider is that this can be run on things captured after the fact. So imagine something where they capture and record, conversations or Skype calls or whatever, and then later this needs to go into a database where it's like, what was the sentiment of this person over the last 5 years? It's a good tool for that.
And Fivecast is a private company. I mean, they're probably government funded. So you can imagine this is probably being marketed to non-government organizations as well.
Ugh.
Yeah. Right now, Customs and Border Protection and Homeland Security are the big customers. And they are not the only ones that are surveilling everything. And when we mean everything, we mean down to the smallest particle.
FBI hoovering up DNA at a pace that rivals China, holds 21 million samples and counting. I think did China just surpass us, or did we just surpass China? I can't remember what it said in the article.
It's the number is they dwarf us because they have so many people. It's the percentage.
Yeah.
So I think we just actually pulled ahead a little bit, maybe.
USA.
They have requested that in 2024 they will need way more money because they plan to do a lot more of this.
Ugh.
Hope you weren't planning on being anonymous in the future. It's like, I'd like to move somewhere and change my name and leave all this other crap behind. Well, sorry, that's not going to happen.
Oops, this database got leaked.
Yeah, exactly.
They point out the boiling frog here. In the old days, it was only if you were convicted of a violent crime, usually of a sexual nature, because obviously DNA becomes the thing there. But now they'll request it from you in the interrogation room always. You can say no, but they're not going to tell you that.
Do you think services like 23andMe, do you think those are legitimate?
Absolutely.
Or do you think that this is just part of that program?
We've actually seen that before. Remember, I think the serial killer.
Yeah. Oh, right. The Golden State Killer. Yeah,
they
found him through that.
One of those services. There was
but to be
one.
fair, he was a violent offender, so I don't know if that's...
But it wasn't him. They got
family.
One of his family members.
Right.
And that happened again recently where, somebody's uncle or whatever, and a cold case, and it just pops up. They go get him. So I would tell you to resist this, but in most cases you can't because they can get a warrant. And if they get a warrant, like they can just bodily hold you down and shove that thing in your cheek and get your DNA.
I mean, hell, they could just take a piece of your hair.
They like to go in for the cheek.
Yeah. They want as much data as possible.
It almost at the same speed, this is going to be used for commercial purposes as well. Imagine T-Mobile or somebody using your DNA profile for payment.
And we've already talked about the insurance companies. Once they get a hold of this.
Yeah. Oh, you have the markers for Alzheimer's. I'm sorry, we can't insure you.
I like how every news site today is just on fire for Taylor Swift.
She's doing a movie for her tour.
It's done, isn't it? It's coming out.
I guess, yeah.
Well, Pennsylvania, it's funny when we look at stories like those, and then we look at this, and it's like, are they just putting these headlines up to make us feel better? Because ultimately, does this even matter based on what we know
They're still doing it.
About the surveillance?
A Pennsylvania court says state police can't hide how it monitors social media.
That's how you know that they're doing something untoward.
They have to tell you that they're doing it, which doesn't make me feel a lot better.
The big thing here in the past, we've covered articles like this, and the problem is they don't want you to know that the way that they're monitoring social media is not that they're monitoring social media, it's that they're participating in social media with fake accounts. Yes. So you think you're sliding into some young hottie's DMs, but in fact, it's the Pennsylvania State Police.
Not only that, they tend to have better, more direct access under the hood to the API. So like, oh, you're using, social media stuff for Twitter. Well, Elon Musk has like this program over here that you interface with, and it's an API type deal. So it's not even really a fake account the way that you're thinking of it. It is deep surveillance built into the platform.
Yes, we learned all that from the Twitter and the Facebook files. Law enforcement at every level is all up in those APIs, doing whatever they want to do. Which is why you shouldn't be on there. Unless you just want to hang out with cops and feds all day. And if you do hang out with cops and feds all day, I'm sure that they will have the utmost respect for your privacy and your dignity.
NSA orders employees to spy on the world with dignity and respect. Quote.
Is this somehow related to Snowden? I feel like this is somehow related to Snowden.
This is just a really
a fluff piece,
a tone deaf PR move. Can you really respect someone that you're surveilling against their will?
When you read their emails, you make sure that you mark them as unread again. That way it doesn't mess with their schedule.
You make notes so that when you do their extraordinary rendition and take them to another company to torture them, you bring up the stuff that you liked about their emails. It's like, well, you know what? You have excellent grammar. As you're putting the car battery leads on their genitals, you just like, listen, the way your prose, the way you wrote those emails, it was beautiful.
I love your Amazon orders. That's a beautiful houseplant you ordered.
I also enjoy the things that you like from Amazon. And it's all a big secret, even though we already know about it, but not everybody knows about it. You fool most of the people most of the time and everything's okay, which is why you're not allowed to discuss things. And the old parallel construction has become the modus operandi for all law enforcement.
Cellebrite, or as the elves would say, Cellebrite, asks cops to keep its phone hacking tech hush-hush.
This really is all about parallel construction. Nobody gets that. You should look into that rabbit hole, like go down the parallel construction rabbit hole, because a lot of what's being done here isn't really legal in the first place, but it's being done anyway.
Yeah, it is wild how in all those police videos, they know exactly which car to pull over. And it's like, yeah, did you just happen to pull this car over for not having a brake light when it's packed with heroin?
What a surprise. I just had a feeling about that car.
No, it was the brake light, because the feeling doesn't count. Feeling is not probable cause, but the brake light is.
But if you want to go down even further on the rabbit hole, there was probably a Fed disconnecting that brake light the night before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that is here in the homeland, but we also have some problems out in the world, which are heating up more and more into dangerous levels. And we have to think about what we're going to do if we get into that World War III. How are we going to fight it against an enemy who is much more populous than we are?
Pentagon bets on quick production of autonomous systems to counter China. They just came right out and said it, too. They were like, yeah, we are afraid about what China's doing in the Pacific, so this is what we're doing.
Which is every validation for when we started doing it. Well, I don't know if it's when we started, but when I started learning about when we do all this stuff, every justification was, I bet Russia's doing it, so we have to.
But Russia's not, important anymore, so now it's China.
Well, no, but this was during the Cold War.
Yeah.
So like all these programs, like MK Ultra, when they actually sat down and they were like, why did you do this? They're like, we're pretty sure that Russia has mind control, so we knew that we needed it. So now the excuse is, we're pretty sure that China has autonomous weapons, so we better get a bunch.
I do want to say that the cardboard drones are surprisingly effective.
I was about to. Did we include that story? Is that later, or is that the part of this
I did
article?
see that, but I did not put it in the
Okay.
story list. So they're talking about a variety of different things here. And remember when we first started talking about this, they're like, listen, we're not actually going to like mount guns on these things that they can use themselves. It seems like we're just starting to ignore that part.
Well, it's happening in some other country. It's not American soil, so why do we care if there's guns mounted on it? Seems to be how they're taking it.
Well, the article I read about the drones was like, well, the drone contacts the pilot to confirm whether it should shoot. And I'm like, how long does it do that, though?
Well, you're talking about a different story.
I just asked if we did that story, and you said no.
You're talking, but there's the cardboard ones and the wingman drone are different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about the wingman drone in the AI section.
That's a spoiler. Sorry.
There's so much AI this week. It's exciting.
And one of the things that have come out of that country that we're so worried about, of course, is TikTok. And there's a lot of argument. Should we allow it? Should we not? And we have a little sneak preview of what our government actually wanted in terms of, we'll let TikTok stay in the country if you do X, Y, and Z.
The feds asked TikTok for lots of domestic spying features.
You should read this and then mentally substitute TikTok for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, basically anything, any website that you use, Gmail, anything that you use online, it's probably got the same laundry list of spying features.
But also think about, this is how powerful the idea of American exceptionalism is in our minds that we've been propagandized to. Just replace the U.S. government with China. That's what they were accusing China of doing.
Yeah.
Like the Spider-Man meme, just perennial, always good.
For 2 years, 3 years, we've been, like gnashing our teeth about China spying. And then they were like, well, it'd be okay if you just let us do it instead.
It's only okay if we spy.
Now, this was rejected, I think. It was later leaked, but this was what they wanted. This is what they tried to demand from TikTok. TikTok had the gumption to push back against some of it. One of the things was TikTok administrators weren't allowed to do certain things without U.S. government permission. So, like, you're not allowed to run your website anymore. And any administrative request the U.S. government made had to be done without question.
The other thing was like keeping stuff, the data and stuff on our soil, which I think they did comply with.
They claim that they're already doing that with Oracle, but who knows?
Yeah, that was the thing where the data is going to be stored here, but it was still shipped to China anyway.
And the Chinese had the backdoor access.
Yeah.
So. And the SEC have been at war with crypto, but then crypto kind of just fell apart. And it feels like this is an unnecessary war at this point.
SEC issues first enforcement action targeting NFTs. I assume they're trying to set a precedent here for whatever comes up after NFTs.
They're deciding what is and what is not a security. So these guys, what was the name of this company? A Los Angeles-based company. I don't know. They're not naming it immediately, but these guys, because they claimed that these were valuable and were going to go up in value and were like a store of value that reflected the company, they say that's a security.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of does fit that definition, I guess.
I like that some of this is going to pave the way for digital assets. And when you buy a game on Steam, it's not really an asset. Like, it could just be turned off. But this kind of thing may actually codify property rights, like digital property rights, as a knock-on effect, because the SEC has been so dogmatic about the pursuing this kind of thing.
You know what this is going to lead to? They're going to start making me pay taxes on my Steam library.
Oh.
Those are assets.
I was just thinking how lovely it'd be if I could have Overwatch 1 back. The game that Blizzard deleted, even though I paid for it many years ago.
And a very interesting thing has happened recently. For a while, we've been having this argument about should we have ETF, exchange traded funds, for cryptocurrencies? The answer has been overwhelmingly no. But then BlackRock wanted to make one. And the answer became yes, which makes some of the people who were told no previously question things.
First Bitcoin ETF could be coming soon as court rules in favor of Grayscale over SEC.
This is another one of those where Grayscale made all the moves like Coinbase ahead of time, and the SEC lawyers just were not able to keep up.
I still think it's BlackRock. They're like, oh, if we say no to you, that sets a precedent, and then we can't say yes to the people who actually are in charge.
I think it's the fictional disease from A Song of Ice and Fire making these moves. Grayscale.
Oh. You think it's sentient? It trades crypto.
It jumped from a fantasy novel into our reality, and now it wants to get into crypto.
It's one of those meme viruses. This is a great stock photo.
I like that. Yeah, I like this too.
So we do not want China to have chips, and we're seeing the knock-on effects of that. China's economy is suffering because of that. They're trying all kinds of tricky ways to get around it, but it seems like they're not the only one that we want to exclude from the chip party.
U.S. denies blocking chip sales to Middle East. U.S. probably is doing that.
Well, this article was terrible. What actually happened was on, because it's shareholder week, more than one company said, we don't know if we can ship to the Middle East anymore, blah, blah, blah. And what was happening was the State Department traced some shipments that were originally sent to the Middle East. Somehow they ended up in Russia. It was Russia, not China. Maybe that's why they left it out. I don't know.
So you have to get a license to do this. And apparently whoever was doing this had not done that correctly. And they stopped it on that basis, which was reported as, oh, you're going to block them to the Middle East, which technically they did because they didn't grant the license. But they're like, no, that's not a policy. We just make these decisions on an individual basis.
Yeah. They're trying to do the license thing as a way of tracing where the goods end up. If the goods end up in, the Middle East, I don't think we really care. But a lot of the time it's going to go to the Middle East and then go somewhere else, and that's the problem.
I think we care which Middle Eastern country it goes to. Some of them are okay. Some of them are not. That changes weekly. And we've had a big argument. This is the government versus big tech in terms of censorship. And this is a big win for Google.
Judge tears apart Republican lawsuit alleging bias in Gmail spam filter.
This could have gone really bad for Google, but the judge said that they didn't show that they were targeting the GOP specifically, just that, maybe the GOP's mail was bad. Their argument seemed to be that it disproportionately targeted, red versus blue emails, but in the lawsuit, there was no actual evidence of that.
I think as a people, if we all really, if there was real democracy, it would probably be like 99% versus 1% of people who just don't want political emails ever.
Yeah, does anyone want them?
No.
I'm never like, oh, thank goodness.
But it's effective. That's the crazy thing, right? Some people read that and they're like, wow, that makes some good points here. Or else they wouldn't do it.
I guess they send the ones in the actual mail as well. And I'm always like, why did you waste the paper for this? It's not even good paper that I can compost. It's glossy. And then they're spraying for the nice paper.
Then they tell you have to stop eating meat because the climate's dangerous. But we're still going to fly around and mail you garbage. Now, we've been watching more and more as the live streaming world has taken the baton in terms of DMCA abuse. It seems like, just downloading things for viewing later is no longer the battleground. Now it's all about live sports because everybody's gone to streaming, and what used to be free on local television, nobody has. So it's big business.
Sports leagues ask US for instantaneous DMCA takedowns and website blocking.
That doesn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah, they could literally just look at any live stream and just be like, oh, nope, it's down.
So they argue that the DMCA works too slowly, and by the time that they've reported everything, the event is over. It doesn't matter anymore. So they need to be able to nuke things in real time. And they want technology that gives them kind of like a dashboard so they can personally control this.
If that's the case, if they make a single false claim, can we delete their channel?
False claims have no repercussions and never have.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't even address the false claims here. It's like, oh, we will never make a mistake. And it's like, X'd out.
Yeah.
We've been following the saga of the chip plants and other big tech plants that were promised to us years ago and have never really become anything. Seems like it's a bit of a boondoggle. Now, they say it's because of our culture, our regulations, and the laziness of the American.
These darn safety regulations.
But the workers have a different tale.
TSMC's Arizona plant is delayed over poor management, not a shortage of U.S. skilled labor, the workers building it say.
Ooh.
So one of the people they interviewed for this article, he actually has worked at an Intel plant, helped building it. He's like, Intel gave us very detailed, like, here's what you need to build, here's like the floor plans and everything like that and all the safety info. And he said that TSMC is just like, build this, and doesn't give any kind of detail at all.
And they sort of told the tale that the Taiwanese workers were much more autonomous, but they were also much more likely to solve a problem in a way that wouldn't meet regulations.
Right. Well, they're like, we've had to do some stuff 2 or 3 times because they go to inspect it and it's like, that's not safe. You're not permitted to do that. And it's like, oh, well, okay.
Now, TSMC's answer here is, no, you people are idiots. We're going to bring on our own workforce to do it the bad way.
And then we'll just bribe the inspection committee, I guess, is what they're hoping.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who to believe here.
At TSMC, Intel actually took some digs at TSMC and said, we're not having any problems building our plant or finding skilled American labor. Everything is going really well. So I don't know if TSMC thinks Intel is doing a good job building their plant, then TSMC is probably going to get their rear in gear.
Let's hope so. We need those chip plants. And this is a good indicator of the problem with, these companies being in bed with the regulators and being able to control certain things. And it's all in the name of secrecy, like business secrets. You can't give my business secrets to other businesses because this is my advantage and you're interfering. And they might abuse that from time to time.
Tesla reportedly asked highway safety officials to redact information about whether driver assistance software was in use during crashes.
And I think we can extrapolate from that. Yes.
Yes, it
Yes.
was. Yeah. We have some other stories about that.
So we have seen all the big headlines about, the Teslas, they'd plow into emergency vehicles a lot. And the question was, were these people sleeping and did they have the autopilot on? That information is out there because the telemetry tells us everything about it. But Tesla did not want that to come out to the public.
Full self-driving.
Any day now, full self-driving.
No, that's what they sell it as.
Yeah.
And some bad news for those of you in Europe. We knew this was coming, but the day happened. It is now past. We're now living in the dark new world.
The EU's Digital Services Act goes into effect today. Here's what that means. When did this get released? It's actually in the past now.
26th.
I read the headline.
I'm waiting for Wendell's comments.
Oh.
This is the one where it's only like 45 million people. So it basically only affects like the giant multinational billion-dollar companies and also Wikipedia. Poor Wikipedia.
In fact, it will only be 26 companies. This has to be, 19, I guess. It has to be a massive online thing.
I recognize most of these. I didn't recognize the Z one.
Zalando.
Zalando. I've never heard of that one. I heard of all the others.
Zalando.com. You can do anything
you want.
Wait, that's not right.
But this will prevent them from doing certain things, especially with the advertising. This is the whole, if you're in Europe, Facebook is now going to be asking you, do you want us to be able to target advertisements to you? And
Discord notification.
You're going to hear that. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. They can't see it, I don't think. But
there's a lot of stuff to do with targeted ads, a lot of stuff to do with, them capturing your data and stuff like that. Now, the big change here, the big real actual change that might make some things different is that the punishment can be 6% of your global turnover.
That's a
So
lot.
these little bitty fines that they just shrug off, they're looking to get around that.
Was there a part of this that requires these companies to share their subscriber info or their user info? Because that seems a little. It's like we're going to protect your privacy by forcing you to give the person's info over to the government. But I
The
wasn't
government,
clear that that was what was actually happening.
it probably is, but they're probably just not saying it. But the government does have a much heavier hand in all this. Now you got to argue, like, what's the lesser evil here? The European Union, unelected bureaucrats, or big tech? It's hard to choose.
Let them fight.
Yeah, but they're fighting over us, and like the fallout is falling onto us. Our cities are being
No,
destroyed.
I'm crawling under a rock. It won't hurt me.
They own that rock.
Oh, they pick it up, smash me.
And it's weird that when we do have some requirements that the people who are in charge of us have to be accountable in some way, that's bizarre things happen.
South Yorkshire Police admits losing 3 years worth of officer body cam footage. Wasn't it like it affected like 69 cases?
Some volunteer data recovery people popped up and were like, "We can get it back," and they're like, "Nah,
It's
it's fine.
okay.
It's definitely
gone."
gone.
Yeah.
No, we checked everywhere. So yeah, some cases are probably gonna have to be thrown out because they were the evidence. I mean, they thought they had slam dunk evidence. It was on video, but not anymore. The question is, what was on video that they were so desperate to get rid of?
There's one that mentioned assault, but it's like, oh,
It's a long way to go to protect one cop or one team of cops. And we've seen country after country step up and announce that, yes, we recognize that the global system is a little bit dangerous for us to depend on. We're bringing it all in-house. And the latest is Germany.
Germany plans to double AI funding and race with China and the US. Yay, more language models.
3.3 billion.
I think that most of the good that's going to come out of this is just university funds to pay students and teachers to teach more machine learning stuff, which doesn't seem terrible, but the industry part of it seems like a train wreck because I didn't see anything here that looked like it was going to be effective.
Here's some money. Hope we get something for it.
Yeah,
That's kind of what they always do.
It's just, it doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The education part of it I could kind of see, but everything else, I mean.
Well, I think a lot of the problems that we have in this world are due to the fact that our government and the big business has gotten a little too cozy, at least since World War II. It's been an ongoing problem, which makes you really, really worry when you see a headline like this.
Foxconn founder Terry, I don't know how you pronounce this name.
Gou
announces run for Taiwan presidency, pledging to fix China ties. What was he had? Oh yeah, what was it? Some era of entrepreneurs rule was his translated comment.
Like 20 years ago, that would have been a joke.
That would have been like a red flag. Yeah, but now we just say those things and it's legitimate.
But this probably gives us a little bit more insight into the whole, why the Taiwanese workers at the new Arizona plant want to do things a certain way. Because these are the people who are in charge in Taiwan.
I think
it's a little terrifying.
He's still not officially on the ballot. He has to get so many signatures, is what I read in this article.
I think he didn't get chosen for one of the main political groups, right? He's got to do something. He's got to do a special thing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's trivial for him to get signatures, right?
Right.
There is some magical things happening in Taiwan the last 5 or 10 years with entrepreneurs doing some really amazing things and connecting, Eastern companies and Western companies, and a lot of magic happening in Taiwan. I don't have a good read on, if this is do people think this will be good for them? Do people think this will be bad for them? Is he saying that he wants to keep everything super status quo amid meddling, or is this?
He wants to basically make friends with China again. He doesn't want any conflict. So based on China's hardline stance, you got to think that means capitulating, right?
Well, and I was also thinking about human suffering and labor because Foxconn doesn't have an amazing record there either.
That's an understatement. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be good for the Taiwanese people. It's probably good for us in terms of cheaper chips, but in terms
No,
of humanitarian, I don't know. I don't think so.
yeah, that the innovation comes from the entrepreneurialism. So I think that if him saying that and what he would actually do would be different because like here entrepreneurs would do better with less regulation and less insanity. And a lot of the people here that have campaigned on the same kind of thing are actually very pro big business and will do everything that they can to crush small businesses from competing.
But the big businesses are in bed with the government.
Yes.
But in his situation, that's built in.
He is big business and the government.
Or he wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't seem like that's entrepreneurialism at all, right?
I mean, the Facebook and Twitter files, like that shows this incestuous relationship. But in his case, it's not even incest. It's just the same dude.
It's literally built that way for efficiency. It's like, oh, that wasn't the takeaway from.
I don't have to ask anybody else what's good because I know what's good.
And of course I know because I'm insanely rich, obviously. Well, China, they would like to have all those Taiwanese fabs because they're having an issue with chips. And that's one of the big reasons that they have been banging those war drums and announcing plans to go get those fabs. But for the time being, they've got a different plan.
Insight: China quietly recruits overseas chip talent as U.S. tightens curbs.
They want the people if they can't get the technology, which is not an unreasonable strategy.
Now, we just heard about Canada throwing out all those tech visas, and they filled it up in one day because our economy, it might be faltering a bit. So there's a lot of people who are out there, they got some skills, but they don't got work. Maybe you want to live in China. You're going to be under surveillance. But then just think back to the first stories that we covered.
You're going to be under surveillance no matter where you go. It's just pick your poison.
I like how the migration package, though, it's like, look, you're going to be the top tier citizen. You're going to have more freedom than everybody else. Like, shouldn't everybody have the same freedoms? No. Hush.
Some of us are more free than others.
Yes, exactly.
You'll probably get more than just freedoms. I mean, if you're a high level and you can do lithography and you knew all that business, you could probably just be like, listen, I need a wife.
Oh.
And I would say like a week later, you're going to have one.
They send you to a singles dating event, right?
No, she just shows up at your house. And Huawei, they have been completely blacklisted. And what do you do if you've been completely blacklisted and you still want those delicious chips?
Huawei accused of building secret microchip factories to beat U.S. sanctions. Why are they secret? Would that surprise anybody?
Because the lithography equipment cannot be sold to Huawei because they're a blacklisted company. But it can be sold to
a third party,
whatever new name that they've made up. Yeah.
What if that third party's in the Middle East?
They're trying to pretend. That's not
I don't know, bro. I just got it off GitHub.
Also, the amount of stuff that is like from Huawei and some of these other companies that's going into Africa is just bananas.
Yeah, it seems China is definitely, although the Belt and Road stuff is sort of falling apart apparently because they're having such financial trouble over there. It's hard to be a usuristic lender when you don't have any money left over. And the Chinese way in the past, at least according to some people, allegedly, is to steal. You're going to just steal technology and say, yeah, we made this. And in this case, they might have been caught red-handed.
China state-backed firm apologizes for home-developed software based on Microsoft source code.
It was Visual Studio Code. They stole Visual. Like that wasn't even the best thing you could have stolen. And it was open source. Like, come on.
No one will notice. You made this. I made this.
They point out that if they had just attributed them, the open source would have allowed them to make the changes that they made and still use it. Like they didn't have to lie about it, but they chose to.
That's strange.
Very strange.
That's somebody who was tasked with doing something in the communist system, but they couldn't do it, or they were too lazy to do it. At the last minute, they were like, "Yeah, here it is."
Oh.
Yeah.
It works.
Give me my commie points.
Oh.
And here's a crazy idea. Now, I assume that we don't get a lot of these because I've not heard these accents from any of my scammers. Have you? It's always Indian for me.
Usually, yeah, it's Indian or it's just a robot anymore. Like a robot voice.
So I wonder who these, I guess they target their own countries?
Must be. Hundreds of thousands trafficked to work as online scammers in Southeast Asia, says UN report.
Now, you think these would be kind of, marginalized individuals, but that's not what they say. They say these people often have degrees. Some of them are bilingual. So people who are educated, but just like the economies
can't find the job,
are so bad. Yeah. And they don't have anything to go for. And so they show up for one of these job opportunities, and that they just to keep them. They're like, yeah, you work here forever. And you're going to steal from people.
That's awful. You think about that next time you berate one of those folks.
I don't care. That's not an excuse. I don't buy into I was just following orders. And India has chosen an interesting strategy during the whole chip war. They're saying, not only do we not want your chips, we don't want your finished products.
Apple, other U.S. tech firms signed letter protesting India's PC import restrictions. It's
Krista, you gotta get new glasses. Good Lord.
It's a tiny website, and I was sitting far away from it. I can't see it.
This is a little bit more info. We talked about this a little bit last week about India wanting to jumpstart their economy for having local stuff, sort of sold to their citizenry. And this is just more info and context for that, because I thought the article from last week wasn't very good.
And Apple, trying to push their weight around. I guarantee you there's some backroom deals where Apple's like, we want sanctions. Sanctions until everybody in India has an iPad.
Yeah. Because they'll still make money that way. I mean, even if they have to make, the iPad SE that is made out of, a year before last's leftover components, it's still going to be a popular product in India.
And this one, I'm pretty sure we did a level 1 predicts here, because as we point out, every time this comes up, there is no reasonable way to do this. The technology doesn't exist. And the Australian powers that be have finally had to accept that now that they've made all their decisions, and someone finally asks, how?
Australia will not force adult websites to bring in age verification due to privacy and security concerns.
Yay! Good job, Australia.
They're going to put all of the burden on the platforms themselves. They're saying, you figure it out. Which there's no good
doesn't seem reasonable.
You can put up a pop-up that's like, are you of age? But unfortunately, that doesn't really stop anything.
No. I never paid attention to those when I was a kid. We've had that.
You didn't look at that and be like, ooh, what if the cops come? That's all. I'm over 21.
I didn't even take a moment to look over my shoulder and see if there were any cops. And Australia is also taking away a feature from your internet service provider. Now, I think most of us have figured out that you don't want to get locked into this because you might want to switch ISPs someday. But apparently, a lot of the old folks in Australia, this is going to cripple them.
Australia's internet providers are ditching their email to the disgust of older customers. My friend, for years, she had a CompuServe email.
We had a customer who, I think we finally got him off of AOL like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, she got rid of hers a lot longer ago, but I was like, why are you still using CompuServe?
It's amazing it still exists, right?
Yeah.
There was a weird period where to have an AOL.com email address, you still had to have AOL dial-up, and even if you didn't use it, and that's not the case anymore, but there were several people who were like, okay, I'll just keep the AOL because literally everybody has it. I can remember many times for businesses. It's like, oh, this is going to be my AT&T email. AT&T, they've been around for 50 years. They're not going to change. It was like, you should not use the AT&T email. They're just going to turn it off one day. It's like, oh, that's impossible.
I mean, to be fair, Gmail also did that with university emails because that got me.
I mean, imagine a world where so ineffective that they're just going to take your phone number away from you, and there's nothing you can do. That when that happened in the past, it was like, no, there's property rights. You own your phone number, and the phone company has to reasonably do everything they can to let you keep your phone number. But we don't have that with something like an email address, which is just nuts.
I did wonder. So, like, when I migrated my Gmail stuff to a new account, like, there's a process where you can say, like, send all my email to this new address, and like that way you can archive it. I don't know if they do that for a lot of ISP emails.
No, they're looking to get rid of it completely because these days the security is such a burden.
Yeah.
That they just don't want to be bothered with any of it.
Gmail lets you forward it all, but that sucks.
Well, that does suck. And it sucks to be an Australian because you're kind of like the test bed for dystopia. But it could get worse.
Saudi man receives death penalty for posts online. Latest case in wide-ranging crackdown on dissent.
He was posting to Twitter. Wait a minute, didn't Elon Musk post a thing saying that he would help out with your legal fees if something bad happened to you as a result of Twitter?
Only if it's a company, not if it's, a government.
I don't know. I don't know there's an appeal process if the Crown says you have to die.
Doesn't the Crown have a significant stake in Twitter? This article left a lot of things out.
They point out that this dude has a brother who is outside of the country for the same reason, and he's even more vocal. And so they suspect this might be some of that as well.
Oh, retaliation.
Well, that doesn't seem despotic at all.
And then did we do the story about where they arrested the guy's mom in another country?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that on one of the streams.
I remember us talking about it, but I don't remember if it was on the podcast or if it was on the Twitch stream or if it was going to be a story last week when the Forgotten News episode.
Probably just missed it this week, but that happened also. It wasn't in, I don't think it was in the Middle East, but, another dictatorship where just your family members can get you killed or locked up. And this is a fun one because, like, Amnesty International is taking a hard line here. But what about China and the UK and now the US? Did they make the same noise when we did this?
Afghanistan installing thousands of cameras was creating total surveillance state. It's already here, and it's in every country.
I see someone has never been to London.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what else I forgot to add? Have you been following the London climate cameras?
No.
So they put up, you're not allowed to drive a certain kind of car in London. It has to be like electric or, one of the new cars. So if you have an old gasoline car, they want to charge you every day that you drive it. How do you do that? Well, you install cameras everywhere. And the cameras tattle. So if you pull out of your driveway with your old car, you immediately get hit with what was it, like $7 or £7? So people have been cutting them down en masse. Like there's this big grassroots movement to destroy those cameras. That's so good. I love that.
I mean, I appreciate trying to have better air quality, but that seems excessive.
They're just trying to make money. That's not going to fix anything. Now, once again, how about, what's his name? The mayor. Khan, is that his name? Sadiq?
Isn't he the PM?
Oh, Sunak.
Oh, yeah. Right. If he would just remember when he took the private helicopter?
And he has a giant heated pool.
Like how many car trips could that have offset?
I've got a license for a rebate for my old gas guzzler.
And maybe you are a climate warrior, and maybe you're like, no, car's the devil, and they're right about that. I only use mass transit. Well, you better watch out.
I tracked an NYC subway rider's movements with an MTA feature.
This was available on the public internet, so that was kind of jaw-dropping. It's like, oh,
No
this
password.
this person always gets off at this station. Their house is probably nearby. It's like, well, that's dark.
Now, you do have to have somebody's payment information, but you don't have to have anything else. There's no account. So if I get your credit card off of a dark web dump from, how many of those are available?
remember the T-Mobile hack? I'm going to be complaining a lot about the T-Mobile hack this week because they charge you extra unless you hook up your bank account details for the payment, that should be illegal. We need Lena Khan on that like yesterday.
So if you have payment info, you could also do it with Apple Pay somehow. You just plug that in and there's no confirmation, there's no anything. They just give you all of your history of where you traveled. And as Wendell said, because most people use this daily on a routine, then that means you could just ambush them if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And once in a while, remember when we had the guy who was bricking the infected routers?
Oh, yeah.
These vigilante hackers. I love stories like this.
Benevolent hackers clear stalking spyware from 75,000 phones. There's a sub headline there. I won't read it because we will get demonetized.
You know what's interesting here? And I thought that this was just a misspelling or like a typo, but they repeated it throughout the article. I think the name of this company really is Web Detective, not Detective.
Usually you would put in parentheses SIC, yeah, to indicate like, yes, I know it's spelled wrong, but they didn't.
But they
do it
repeated it over and over. So unless they just copy pasted, that is really what a terrible name. Yeah, see, here it is again.
I bet it autocorrects every time they try to type it too.
Yeah, that's probably super annoying. So this is the like spouse spyware nonsense, and they found a vulnerability with it and just wiped it out.
It's nice. A lot of angry, abusive spouses out there.
I wonder if they notify. That'd be good if they could notify the people too. It's like, hey, heads up.
We just cleared this off your phone.
Someone is spying on you.
Yeah.
This was the same company that wrote their customers a letter saying, we're not going to recover from this hack. Sorry, right? I think it is.
No, you're thinking of, well, there's been several of those. There was the Discord one, Discord.io.
Yeah.
They got hacked and they were just like, we're done. Mm. But there was another surveillance company. I remember what you're talking about. I don't think it was this one. But that's probably what's going to happen here, right? How do you recover from this? Email all your customers and be like, just reinfect all their phones.
Yeah, you shouldn't. It's just like, we're failing at life. We're out. See ya. That's a good way. That's
Thanks
a good
for
way
the cash. See ya.
Oh, imagine if that would have happened with our banks.
Good. It did with a couple of them.
Yeah, but we've saved them.
Yeah.
Poland has been kind of a flashpoint because they are in between the NATO and Russia conflict. They're right there on the border, which makes them a necessary avenue to and fro, and that makes them a target.
Poland's railway is halted by a simple radio hack. This one simple trick. And it played the Russian anthem, I think, they said, over the train.
Yeah.
Can we use the satellites to figure out where it came from and then just HIMARS the source? I'd be okay with that.
So they have an emergency signal that they can broadcast over the radio, just in case, I guess, like the driver's dead.
Jump out of the train!
It's out of control. They can shut it down remotely, but it's a very simple, like 3-tone radio signal, and it's public knowledge. You can go on the internet and find out what it is. So some ne'er-do-wells got a hold of that, and they've been messing with them.
The article said it was like $30 worth of equipment.
It's just a software-defined radio and an antenna. That's all you need, a laptop.
You could do this with a Flipper Zero.
They're probably going to add that as an app to the Flipper Zero.
Well, you could add the reverse app, but it's like, oh, let me get my Flipper Zero out and get this train back online. It's like, floop. There we go. The train's operational.
It's all about who can put more power to their antenna to keep the train running. Red light, green light. And if you are a Skype user, some terrible news.
Hackers can silently grab your IP through Skype. Microsoft is in no rush to fix it because they want you to use Teams.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
there's no way to have Skype auto answer. It used to be that with Skype, you could auto answer people that you knew for video calls, which would be really handy with my mom right now. And you can't do that anymore because, of course.
So the reporter here from 404 Media, once again, Joseph Cox, he actually tested this. He got a hacker to perform this on him, and he said it was perfect every time. You have to open the message.
You don't have to click on it, though.
But you don't have to, the message has to come in. That's wrong. You don't have to open it. The message has to come into your Skype, but you don't have to interact with it at all.
Right.
So this is a 0-click IP theft. So you might want to VPN your Skype. And the hackers, they went through this. They were attacking hospitals and people were like, hey, you got to stop doing that. And then they went after schools. They're always looking for new weird avenues of things to hack.
Hackers shut down 2 of the world's most advanced telescopes. This is like when hackers target hospitals, and I'm just like, why? These are doing a net good.
They're trying to get ransom, I guess, but
yeah,
this is a weird one. So we got 2 of these on different parts of the world to get more coverage. The North and South Gemini telescopes, they were both taken down. I guess they're operating both of them off of like a dashboard. Probably shouldn't be like that. Although I guess they do depend on each other's data.
Yeah.
Figure things out.
Well, and then it said that there was another one, attack on not these ones, but a different telescope in 2022, like October. Who does that?
If you're an astronomer and you're just working your telescope, you got to be like, really, guys?
They have to do it. So my old astronomy teacher in college, he went and worked at like one of these telescope research stations like in the summertime. And he would only do it during the summer, partly because of his schedule, but because like that was the best time to see certain constellation stuff. So imagine like you're all geared up, ready to go see some star formations and stuff. And then it's like, oh, telescope's down. And you only have that short window to work in.
It's spreading the malware to the people on the wireless network. No.
And finally, we recently got some videos of Grand Theft Auto 6. But here's the thing. Grand Theft Auto 6 is nowhere near complete. It is not time to start that hype train yet. And they were very upset about that. And now we know who.
GTA 6 leak. Teenagers found to be involved in lapsus hack against Rockstar.
We covered this when it happened. It was a big deal. But it turns out it was just teenagers.
You got to hand it to this kid, though. I mean, first of all, his just brazen disrespect for everything authority. He was arrested and on bail, but because his details had been leaked by other hackers and he was being targeted, they decided to keep him in an undisclosed location, which was a hotel room. The hotel room had a smart TV.
I love this.
And he had a Fire Stick, an Amazon Fire Stick. Using an Amazon Fire Stick, a smart TV, and a wireless keyboard, he hacked NVIDIA, Rockstar, and Uber.
Why is this kid not working for the CIA? Why would you?
Because he's got some morals.
I guess. They shouldn't even be mad, though. They should be like, you know what? We're just going to offer you a job.
Yeah.
This is genuinely impressive. Come to work for us.
He's probably just going to go away for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them was 17. Like, they can't even release his name. He was that young.
I don't think he's going to be able to stay in the hotel room anymore. I think they're probably going to lock him up.
Sad.
Well, I also forgot to mention that this is going to be a long week because we didn't do anything last week. And I tried to only get the juiciest stories, but we have long sessions. But we've reached the end of one.
Yay. And sorry.
I hope you're feeling better, Wendell.
Oh, it's a different thing than the other thing that I had because that's how we roll.
Because you needed more friends in your system.
Yeah.
All right. We will see you guys in the next one. Bye.